everybody, Hugh Kellenberger here. To my far left, that is Zach Osterman.
He's trying to get out of the picture.
To my immediate left is Dustin Dopirak.
That's right.
First try.
You're two
First
for two.
try. Yes.
2 for 2.
Okay.
There's only 3 regular season games left.
He didn't tell me I was doing it wrong until like.
I didn't. I let him ride with that. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. Indiana loses to Purdue. Kind of a similar situation. Just didn't execute, made too many mistakes in order to win a Big Ten game.
Yeah. No, really, I mean, the biggest thing, especially early, was they lost guys in transition. Guys got wide open on three-pointers. And a lot of the guys, not necessarily that you don't expect to beat you, but can beat you if you're too focused on Etuan Moore and Juwan Johnson. Lit them up pretty good. I mean, there was especially the really bad stretch was there was 3 threes, I think, on 4 possessions. Tyrone Johnson hit 2 of those. Ryan Smith hit another one, and from that point on, Indiana was just battling. Yeah,
DJ Bird and Tyrone Johnson had 5 3-pointers in the first half. Tyrone Johnson's a pretty good player, but he's a freshman that's been really struggling. DJ Bird's really kind of like Chris Kramer light, or he's supposed to be that.
Okay.
He's supposed to be kind of the defensive guy. He's not really supposed to score. But
I'll grant it to you, I guess.
Okay. Anyways. You leave those, but you're right. You leave those guys open.
Continue, just keep going.
You leave those guys open, they're going to make shots. That's what happened.
Yeah, and that's what happened. I mean, those guys got into shooting rhythm and they started to get some momentum, and then they just really kept falling throughout the first half. I think Purdue was only 1 of 11 in the second half, but it didn't really matter. Purdue was able to get a bunch of big buckets anyway. I think Zach pointed out that there was a lot of 3-point plays, especially a really big one Juwan Johnson got.
3 of them. 2 converted.
Yeah. Big one Juwan Johnson got right when Indiana got it back to 3 points, and that was pretty much the backbreaker. Starts a 6-0 run, and from that point, Indiana's in whole again.
Really, Indiana also, Watford did it. I think Sheehy did it once. Left a lot of points at the rim.
They did.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of close layups that, I mean, is it fatigue? Is it luck? Is it just not being strong enough? I mean, it's probably a combination of all those things to an extent, but Indiana just, I mean, they kind of did the thing that they always talk about wanting to do of attacking the rim. Nothing was falling.
Yeah. Watford especially, I think, was 1 for 7 from inside the arc. He had 3 threes, 1 right over here with 7 seconds left when it really, really, really didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was a Northwestern-esque performance for Watford where he had 18 and 9, and you wonder where they happened.
18 and 9, maybe the emptiest 18 and 9.
A lot of free throws.
And we've said that a few times about Watford.
He does that.
Yeah.
He has a curious tendency. In some ways, that makes him good for the NBA.
Yeah, you're right.
He is a stat accumulator.
That's how you get a really nice contract.
Yeah.
Actually.
There are a lot of guys playing on 5-year, $30 million deals who go, yep, that's how you do it.
Yep.
He doesn't seem. He seems around the rim different. Since the injury, and I don't know if it's strength or if it's a mental thing. I'm sure. I'm sure that playing with what Tom Crean described as 1.5 hands has something to do with it. But there's probably a little bit mental in it. And this is the second year in a row where Watford's been asked to carry a really big load.
Yeah.
So you got to imagine as Kyle Coleman waves at us from passing in the night, he just does not. I think maybe he finishes those plays at the beginning of the Big Ten season.
Probably
most of them.
Good chance, yeah. But I mean, he missed a lot of them tonight.
But we saw some similar plays too against Northwestern.
Yeah,
where he was able to force his way into the lane. I think Tom described it as not taking the last step and stepping through the contact, but he just he wasn't able to finish the play.
He looks just timid enough, just concerned enough with the scan that it causes things to go badly.
He's lost just enough.
Yeah,
he's still a very good player, but he's lost just enough.
It's not instinctual. It's too reactive at this point. Yeah. You see him dribbling in, and you can tell he's just a little bit worried about his left hand, and you just can't play that way. Overall, defensively, Indiana really struggled. We talked about the open 3-pointers, but rotation. Johnson got the ball way too many times, and where he wants it.
Really deep.
Too many guys with their backs just straight to the ball.
Yeah. A lot of times where one guy got beat, and somebody comes over to help him, save him, and it opens up another shot. You just can't do those things against Purdue. You just can't.
It's what it's been. Whenever they've had problems, it's been the same things, and that's it's defensive rotation. It's getting where you're supposed to be. It's not getting lost on screens.
Well, let me pose this as the outsider. I think this is the first question I've ever posed on Scoop Talk. But in itself, is that not progress a little bit? I mean, have we ever been able to compartmentalize Indiana's problems over the last 2+ seasons? I mean, have we ever been able to so easily identify and, like I said, compartmentalize Indiana's problems and the things that they clearly need to work on and improve? And obviously, I mean, these are things that they said they'd improved on last offseason, but still, it doesn't seem the issues don't seem quite so widespread, I guess, is the point, as they used to be.
I get what you're saying,
yeah.
But to me, it's easier to get better than it is to, like, someone become mentally tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's almost better if you just had 12 guys that did everything right, but just, damn it, they're just too slow to get around in the rotation. Right. That's not the problem. The problem is they don't recognize when it's happening. And I think the mental problems are a lot tougher of a hurdle for this program right now than the physical problems that maybe were really evident the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it does. Maybe. There are some things that are interesting that come back to mentality of this team. I mean, talked a lot about accountability, and there was an interesting exchange. I mean, you never know what's actually being said. Mm-hmm. So, because we're not close enough. So, I mean, you have no idea who's in the right or in the wrong here, or who said what or whatnot. But there was a couple occasions where Verdell really tried to get into somebody today. Just really tried to yell at somebody. Capabianco especially.
He was the only one who I think fouled someone Johnson hard enough to.
Yeah.
And I mean, Juwan Johnson has gotten a lot stronger, but I mean, this isn't Jared Sullinger. Yeah. You should be able to foul him hard enough to prevent him from scoring.
Right. Yeah. But one way or another, it's not a good sign, and you don't know who it's not a good sign for, but it's not a good sign when somebody, yells at another player to say, hey, you're screwing this up, and there's retaliation, and lots of it. There was a stretch, I don't know how many words were exchanged between Verdell and Capabianco where they were sitting just, getting ready for free throws. So, I mean, you don't know what that means exactly. Does that mean no one would respect Verdell as a leader? Does that mean just Bobby doesn't take direction? Does that mean there's an actual point that they're arguing over that's legitimate?
I mean, I think it goes back to what we talked about last Scoop Talk, where the all for one for all thing. Somebody needs to step up and be that guy. You feel like you can yell at your peer. If your peer yells at you, you feel like you can yell back.
Right.
If the guy you really respect as the captain, I don't think Ryan Smith yells at E'Twaun Moore for the same thing.
No,
because
you're exactly right.
Because E'Twaun is elevated to that status. Indiana doesn't have anybody elevated to that status.
Yeah.
So Bobby,
nobody's the boss.
Nobody's the boss. Bobby does feel like he can obviously talk back to Verdell. Is that a problem?
I don't know.
It is a problem going forward because someone has to elevate to that spot. We talked about that a lot last time. We don't need to go back into that. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I mean there's still those basic things that are missing. I mean, really, defensive rotation is just one of those key things that everybody knows you have to do it. It's one of those things that you have to be constantly thinking extremely fast. When you're screwing up, it's not because you want to screw up or not because you don't care. It's just everything really happens fast when they have the ball and you have to react. And it is, like you said, it's about mental toughness. It's about doing it so many times that you know exactly where you're supposed to go, exactly what you're supposed to do. It's just instinctive because it can't really even be a play because you're reacting to them, basically. And that's really what it's got to come down to. You can compartmentalize it, and that, I guess, is a good thing, but it's still a very key thing that is really, really hard to fix.
Right. Let's finish up on this real quick. Guys, there's 3 regular season games left. They're short of 4 games, obviously, the Big Ten tournament. Can this team really improve in any tangible fashion from here till March? Or is this is Indiana, and this is how it's going to be?
It can. I mean, I think we've asked that question a few times and been surprised by the answer.
I mean, well...
Go ahead. I was just going to say there's been a few occasions where, as we've said before, right as you're about to bury this team, they come up and do something unbelievable. And it's going to be harder and harder to do it. I mean, there's a good chance the next game is going to be against what might possibly be the most talented team in college basketball.
Yeah.
Then after that, you've got Wisconsin here. That's obviously Wisconsin's Wisconsin.
They're going to be playing for seeding.
Yeah, and at least they'll be back here. It'll be senior day. I don't know how much but it's the last home game, and then after that,
Illinois.
You have an Illinois team. I think we all know quite well that Illinois is capable of packing it in and playing ridiculous. If we've seen, if we know nothing else, we know that Illinois might be the most schizophrenic team.
You know what I do like about Illinois is Dimitri McCamey with a handful of games left. His college career. I'm going to come off the bench now.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a trip. It's a trip over there.
The one thing I will say to your question is, I think we said the exact same thing last year, and then we saw them beat Northwestern. We saw Derek Elston play well down the stretch. We saw Jordan Hulse kind of take control of this team down the stretch. And we said, okay, so these guys, Jordan Hulse is capable of being, the guy on a Big Ten team. Derek Elston, has some real offensive skill and can play defense. As Dustin, I think, kind of alluded to, the learning curve is steepening. I mean, there's not as much of a gap to fill, so it's harder to get, it's harder to get back to where you need to be because or at least it's harder to see it. But yeah, I think that, I'm not sure where it'll come from because I don't think anybody really could have predicted where it was going to come from last year, but I do think it's possible.
I predict Taylor Ware is going to become a rotation player.
You love Taylor Ware.
You love Taylor Ware.
I love Coke products.
Thanks, everybody.